Welcome to another deep dive. You know, if you're here, you must be interested in food, maybe a little bit of science, and a good story.
That sounds about right.
Today we'll be taking a deep dive into Food for Thought, a novel by Pauline Francis, set on the Cornish coast.
Beautiful part of the world.
It is.
Known for its rugged cliffs and incredible surfing. But this novel adds a whole other dimension. It plunges us into this really complex debate about organic versus genetically modified farming.
Yeah. Food for Thought really throws you into the middle of it. The main character, Joe, he's this young university student.
Okay.
And he's from South London, kind of a city boy, you know.
Right.
And he's expecting to go on this epic surfing trip to Cornwall.
Of course, that's what Cornwall's all about.
Right. Sun, sand, epic waves. But things take a bit of a detour. He ends up having to help his aunt and uncle on their farm.
So the bit of a fish out of water story then.
Totally. It's a real change of pace for him. And it's not just any farm. His aunt, uncle, Jenny and Dave, they're like hardcore advocates for organic farming.
Okay. So no pesticides,
Right.
no herbicides, no synthetic fertilizers. They're all about working in harmony with nature.
Which is admirable. But as the novel kind of highlights, it's not always easy. Organic farming can be a tough business, especially when you're competing with these big, technologically advanced operations.
And that's exactly where the conflict comes in.
Oh.
Their new neighbors, the Ladocks, they've decided to conduct this trial of genetically modified maize, GM maize, basically.
Okay. So they're going head to head.
Oh, yeah. It's like throwing fuel on the fire.
Wow.
Because you have these clashing ideologies, right? We have this traditional view of organic farming.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have this promise of all these benefits from genetic modification.
Yeah, like increased yields, pest resistance. I've even heard some people say GM crops could offer enhanced nutritional value.
Right. And the novel really delves into the science behind it all. Like, did you know scientists can insert genes from one organism into another to, create certain traits?
I mean, I know the basics. There's this one example in the book that's wild.
What is it?
They talk about a potato with a fish gene in it.
A fish gene?
Yeah.
In a potato?
Yeah, to make it resistant to freezing. It sounds like science fiction, right?
It does, and it really makes you think. What are the long-term implications of that?
Exactly. And that's what's so great about this novel. It explores both sides of the debate. You have Anna, this passionate anti-GM activist who's staying with Jenny and Dave.
Sure.
And then there's Kate, the Lydock's daughter. She's a bit more open to the potential benefits of GM technology.
So she's not necessarily pro-GM, but, willing to consider it.
Yeah, exactly. And the best part is that neither character is like this caricature. They both have really valid points. And their motivations are genuine, whether it's concern for the environment,
right,
or, their family's livelihood, or even just the future of agriculture in general.
Yeah.
But it's not just about the farming debate, right? Because then, of course, there's a love triangle.
Oh, the love triangle.
Joe's kind of caught between Anna and Kate.
Complicated.
It definitely adds another layer of complexity.
I bet. So he's having to grapple with these strong women who are on opposite sides of this huge issue.
Exactly. It forces him to really confront his own beliefs.
Yeah.
Make some difficult choices. And let me tell you, those choices have some real consequences.
So this is a real page turner then.
Oh, yeah. And remember how we were talking about Cornwall being famous for surfing? Well, Joe's hopes of riding those epic waves, they kind of get dashed when this massive storm hits the coast.
A storm?
It sets the stage for, a major confrontation.
Oh, no.
That changes everything.
This is getting intense. So the storm, it kind of mirrors all the turmoil, right?
Exactly.
Not just in the community, but also within Joe himself.
Right. And just a storm unleashes its fury.
Yeah.
So do the tensions around the GM crop trial. It erupts in this way that, no one could have predicted.
Okay, now I'm really hooked.
Stay tuned because we're just getting started. That storm, it really sets the stage for things to get, messy in Food for Thought. I mean, the Cornish coast might be known for its beauty.
Right.
But at Tregonan Farm, things are anything but peaceful. You can really feel the tension between Anna and Joe after that storm kind of traps them in the farmhouse together.
Yeah.
It's almost like they're walking on eggshells.
It makes you think about, the psychology of activism.
Oh, absolutely.
Anne is so committed to her cause.
Right.
It's almost like she's disconnected from the immediate impact of her actions. She's so focused on this bigger picture, the threat of GM crops.
Yeah.
And it creates this real dissonance, especially with Joe, who's trying to figure out, where he stands ethically on all of this.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, what drives someone to that point? to those extremes? Is it just idealism,
Right.
a sense of moral righteousness, or is there something deeper going on, like psychologically?
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, the novel doesn't really give you all the answers, but it does give you some clues about Anna's background.
Okay.
You find out she comes from this family that's, very connected to the land. They have a long history of traditional farming.
Okay.
So maybe she sees GM crops as this threat to, like, her heritage,
I see.
to her identity even.
So it's more than just, science or economics.
Yeah, it's about a way of life.
Yeah.
That she feels is under attack. And when you feel like you're being attacked,
Right.
well, you might make choices that you wouldn't otherwise.
Right. And that really contrasts with the latex.
Yeah.
They represent a much more modern technological approach to agriculture.
Yeah.
They believe, GM crops could solve world hunger,
Right.
make food more available, improve yields.
It's a reminder that, there are so many different ways to look at these complex issues.
Absolutely.
And every perspective is shaped by, different values and beliefs and different experiences, of course.
And for Joe, who's kind of caught in the middle of all this,
Right.
he's learning so much.
Mm-hmm.
And he's forced to confront these different views,
Yeah.
weigh the benefits and the risks of GM crops, and ultimately figure out where he stands.
And then you add in his feelings for both Anna and Kate.
Oh, right. The love triangle.
He's attracted to both of them, but they represent such different worldviews. It's like, how do you even choose?
That's so relatable, though, right?
Yeah.
It's like this internal conflict we
Yeah.
all face in some way.
Yay.
Like with technology.
Right.
Do we just embrace it, or do we kind of approach it with a bit of caution?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are downsides to everything.
Yeah. And in Joe's case, his inability to kind of choose a side,
Mm-hmm.
well, it leads to some pretty serious consequences.
Oh,
He feels torn between loyalty to Anna,
yeah.
but also his growing concern about, her increasingly extreme actions. Like, he even tries to talk her out of going to another protest.
He does.
Warns her about, like, the legal risks involved, but she's just determined to continue her fight, even if it means, like, breaking the law.
It's that,
Oh.
that mentality.
Yeah.
The ends justify the means.
Yeah.
She believes so strongly in her cause that she's willing to do whatever it takes.
Right. And for Joe, well, it's a wake-up call.
Oh.
It makes him realize that, like, blind loyalty can be dangerous.
Yeah.
And that sometimes the hardest thing you can do is stand up for what you believe in,
Mm-hmm.
even when it means going against the people you care about.
And so what does he do?
Well, he does stand up to her, but maybe not in the way you'd expect.
Oh.
Remember that storm that was raging?
Yeah.
Well, it's still going strong when he finds out Anna's about to go vandalize another GM crop trial.
Yeah.
And the tension in that scene, oh my
I
God.
bet. He's caught in this, internal storm of his own.
Totally. And in the end, he makes her promise
Promise what?
to not tell anyone he knew about her plan.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
A promise he's probably going to regret.
Yeah. Big time.
So what happens next?
Well, the next morning, the police show up at Chigonin Farm.
No way.
The tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife.
Yeah.
Kate and Mr. Leddock are furious, obviously. They feel betrayed by Joe's silence, especially Kate,
Yeah.
because, she was starting to develop feelings for him.
It's tough, right? Like, even when we think we're making the right choices,
Mm-hmm.
our actions can really hurt people.
Yeah. And this hurt is even worse because the entire GM maize crop, it's
Yeah.
been destroyed.
Oh, wow.
And while Jenny's kind of secretly happy about it,
Okay.
Dave's really worried.
Yeah, makes sense.
He doesn't think destroying the crop is the right way to go about this.
Even within a family, there can be such different views on these things.
Absolutely. And Joe's kind of stuck dealing with all this guilt and regret. He knows he could have done more.
Mhm.
He could have spoken up, challenged Anna, or even told the authorities.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
And now he has to deal with the fallout.
Exactly.
It's a tough spot to be in. It makes you wonder,
Mm-hmm.
what would you do if you were in Joe's shoes? Knowing what he knows now,
Would you speak up?
would you stay silent?
Would you just hope things work themselves out? It's like everything shifts after the field's destroyed and food for thought.
Oh, how so?
It becomes less about organic versus GM and more about, personal responsibility.
Yeah.
What happens when we make bad choices?
Mm.
Is it possible to, come back from that?
Yeah, the idea of redemption.
It's interesting, though. The novel doesn't give you any easy answers.
Oh.
It's tempting to make Anna the villain
Right.
and Joe, the victim.
Mm.
But it's much more complicated than that.
Right.
Joe's struggling with what he didn't do. And Anna, she seems almost totally out of touch with the consequences of her actions.
It's like they've switched places in a way.
Yeah, kind of. At first, Joe was, open to the idea of GM crops.
Okay.
He was willing to listen to the latex, at least.
Right.
And Anna was totally against it, remember?
Yeah.
Super opposed. She just didn't trust anything that messed with nature.
Right.
But now Joe's the one questioning everything, really wrestling with the ethics of it all. And Anna, she's just digging in even more, even with, the possibility of going to jail.
Wow. Make you think about activism. When does passion become fanaticism?
Right.
Where's the line?
Exactly. And how do you balance those strong beliefs with, the need to respect other people's views?
That's a tough question.
And the novel really digs into those questions.
Okay.
Especially when Joe finally confronts Anna.
Oh.
It's intense.
Wow.
He's so angry and hurt and just confused by what she did.
Yeah.
He even calls her selfish, putting the cause ahead of the people who care about her.
Oh, wow. How does she react?
Well, she gets defensive.
Okay.
Says she's fighting for something bigger than herself.
Right.
That GM crops are dangerous for everyone. And then it's her job to stop them.
No matter what.
Even if it means breaking the law.
It's that clash again, isn't it? Idealism versus, the real world.
Yeah.
She has this vision, of a world without this technology she sees as harmful.
Right.
But Joe, he's starting to understand that the world is messy.
Yeah.
You have to find ways to balance competing needs.
And you know what? I think that's where the novel starts to offer some hope.
Oh.
It's this tension between those two viewpoints.
Yeah.
This struggle to find some kind of common ground.
Makes sense.
And the turning point. Joe decides to visit Kate.
He does. Even that she's furious with him.
Yeah. He knows she's angry, but he goes anyway.
It takes guts to do that, to face someone you've hurt.
It does. And Joe owns up to his mistake.
He does.
He admits he was wrong to stay silent.
That he should have said something.
Yeah, even if it meant losing Anna.
And what about Kate?
She's hesitant at first.
Of course.
But she listens to him.
Yeah.
And I think she sees that he really regrets what he did.
That's so important, right?
Yeah.
To acknowledge when you've messed up.
Absolutely. And even though things aren't perfect between them,
right,
it feels like maybe they can start to repair things.
There's that possibility.
And it's not just them.
No.
It feels like maybe the community can heal too.
What makes you say that?
The novel doesn't end with everyone agreeing about GM crops.
Right.
The conflict is still there.
Okay.
But it feels like they're starting to listen to each other more,
Yeah.
Trying to understand the issue from different sides,
Huh.
working towards solutions that work for everyone.
I like that. It's like a reminder that even when we disagree,
Yeah.
we can still find ways to connect.
Exactly. We can find empathy and compassion, even when we feel really strongly about our own beliefs.
It's a powerful message, don't you think?
Absolutely. Especially these days when everyone seems so divided.
Yeah, it feels like everything's so black and white, us versus them.
Food for thought reminds us that it's not that simple.
No.
It shows us that even, science and technology, things that seem objective.
Right.
Well, they're all tangled up with human stories and emotions.
Yeah.
And our deeply held beliefs.
Right.
There's no easy answer.
Right.
No right or wrong.
But if we talk to each other
Yeah.
and really listen, maybe we can find ways to work through these tough issues.
And build a better world.
I love that. So Food for Thought, it's more than just a novel, right?
Oh, definitely. It gives you so much to think about.
It does.
It's one of those stories that stays with you.
Well, I know what I'm reading next.
Me too.
Yeah.
And to our listener, if you're looking for something that will really make you think, check out Food for Thought. And as always, keep those deep dives going. We'll be back next week with another fascinating topic.